All right, Apostolic Age Writings of John. John. John is the only one of the 12 apostles whose life appears to extend into the region of authentic history, and of him this can only be said of the latter portion of his life. He is supposed to have been driven to Patmos by some persecution, but the learned cannot agree what emperor it was under, the range being from Claudius to Domitian. In the persecution under Domitian, he was taken to Rome. There, it is said, the boiling oil into which he was thrown had no power to hurt him. The account of his living to an old age at Ephesus has been universally received and may be considered historic. Irenaeus says that at Ephesus, John leaped out of a public bath with horror when he saw Cerinthius, the heretic, entering it. Cerinthius flourished about the middle of the 2nd century. Some ecclesiastical historians, in aid of Irenaeus, have tried to bring Cerinthius within the 1st century. Sorry. The writings of John. Probably none of the writings attributed to the Apostle John are entitled to be considered genuine. His 2nd and 3rd epistles were omitted in the Peshitta, were not established as late as at the close of the 2nd century, and were doubted by Eusebius himself, even as late as 1562, when Ignatius, patriarch of Antioch, hearing of the advantages of printing, sent a certain priest of Mesopotamia into Europe with a copy of the Syriac Testament to be printed. It lacked the 2nd epistle of Peter, 2nd and 3rd John, Jude, and Revelation. The Apocalypse, or Revelation, ascribed to John, seemed to have been one of many productions of the kind which appeared early in the 2nd century. It is similar to the Revelation of Cerinthius and may have emanated from the same source. It was omitted from the Peshitta version from the Catalogue of Cyril of Jerusalem, from that of Gregory Nazianzen, and Davidson thinks it was not in the collection of New Testament books made by Eusebius for the use of the churches by order of Constantine. It was not established at the close of the 2nd century and was not in the Syriac Testament sent to be printed in 1562. But the most remarkable circumstance is the fact that it was rejected by the very churches to whom it was addressed. In the Council of Laodicea, AD 365, consisting of 32 bishops from the different Asiatic churches, by the 60th canon, it was solemnly decreed what should be the canonical books of the New Testament. The Apocalypse was omitted. Eusebius argues against it and thinks it was written by John the Presbyter, or elder, who lived in the 2nd century. After all this evidence, it would seem superfluous to add that the church at Thyatira was not founded until after the death of the Apostle of John. The Gospel according to John. The Reverend Dr. Davidson, who is considered such high authority that he was employed to write the article on the canon for the new edition of the Encyclopedia Britannica, says, its existence, the Gospel of John, before 140 AD, is incapable either of decisive or probable showing. And again, the Johnian authorship has receded before the tide of modern criticism, and although the tide is arbitrary at times, it is here irresistible. The Jameses. The 2 apostles are mentioned by the name of James, one the son of Zebedee and brother of John, also called James the Elder, and the other James the son of Alphaeus, who was called James the Less, and James the Just. But whether the latter James was the same with the brother of the Lord, commentators have not been able to decide. This, the great church historian Neander pronounces the most difficult question in apostolic history. James, the brother of Jesus, is a historic personage. An account of his death is given with full particulars by Josephus. Some evangelical writers have been inclined to let this passage go, with the other as a forgery. but there does not appear to be any good reason to deny its authenticity. The account is as follows. Festus was now dead, and Albanius was but upon the road, having been appointed procurator of Judea. So he, Ananus, who had just been appointed high priest, assembled the Sanhedrin of judges and brought before them the brother of Jesus, who was called Christ, whose name was James, and some of his companions. And when he had formed the accusation against them, as breakers of the law, he delivered them to be stoned. The historian then proceeds to relate that some of the citizens condemned the proceedings and went to meet Albanius, who was returning from Alexandria. That they complained to him of Ananus and claimed that he had no right to assemble the Sanhedrin without Albanius's consent. That Albanius, taking the same view of the matter, wrote a severe letter of reproof to Ananus, and soon after had the high priesthood taken from him. Now, here is a network of historical facts and incidences connected with the customs and ecclesiastical polity of the Jews, which forbids the supposition of the whole account being a forgery. And if the words relating to Christ are to be stricken out, there must be some good reason given for it. We do not see any. There is nothing inconsistent in the language. Josephus is not here, as in the other passage, made to declare that Jesus is the Christ. He is spoken of as Jesus who was called Christ, to distinguish him from other Jews by the name of Jesus. Epistle of James. Commentators think this epistle was written by James, the son of Zebedee, according to the subscription of the Syriac version, or James, the son of Alphaeus, or James, the brother of the Lord, or an unknown James, which was Luther's opinion. As the epistle maintains its place among the writings of the New Testament, we must conclude that upon the question of its inspiration, it is immaterial by whom it was written. The Judases and the other apostles. There were two apostles by the name of Judas, the one called Thaddeus, the other Judas Iscariot. Whether the one called Thaddeus and at other times Lebbaeus was also the Lord's brother, here again the learned cannot agree, nor whether he was the author of the Epistle of Jude. This epistle was not in the Peshitta nor in the Syriac version of 1562. It was rejected by Norton and had long before by Michaelis. This was one of the 7 books which were for a long time discredited by the fathers. The others were 2 Peter, 2nd and 3rd John, James, Hebrews, and Revelation. It is scarcely worthwhile to attempt to complete a history of the apostles. The whole subject is involved in obscurity. After, with much difficulty, we have settled upon 11 apostles. The 12th in the Synoptic Gospels was Bartholomew, while in John it was Nathaniel. And sorry, allergies are bad, so just the way it goes.